So another thing that you raised in your presentation that I know has been a concern for a lot of members, and I'm wondering if you could say more about this, JP, is that the employer council's offer is including language that indicates that they are seeking and are going to be actively looking for two-tier workloads. Why are we opposed to it, and what do we think the CEC is looking for, and why is it important to resist it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. I was just in a meeting at my local today, and Tom Tomasi, who's our current president, who's on PD leave, he's been in the system for the entirety of the system. And he said when he first started teaching, he's in the trades, he's a welder. And he said when he first started teaching, it was, you were assigned 27 hours and you had to do an evening, a night class that was paid at a different rate. He was a full-time faculty member, but this was all required of you when you first, in the early days before we had the standard workload formula. And that is a level of sort of fear and flexibility that the colleges are seeking now. They believe very differently than what this team believes, which is that there is equal value in all of the teaching that is conducted at the colleges. And I think that the reason that they're going after apprenticeship, and the reason that they're going after aviation, and the reason that they're going after upgrading in terms of different kinds of working conditions, worse working conditions, is because they represent small slivers of the college, whereas apprenticeship used to be the vast majority of the teaching that is done. It now represents somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12% of the total amount that's happening in the system. It's the same reason they go after counselors and librarians, right? It's the same reason that they go after the tiny groups to try and drive in wedges, because what they're trying to do is create division between groups of faculty so that we cannot effectively organize together. That tends to be very successful for employers when we allow it to happen. But frankly, and this is something I will stand behind, is that it's all of us or none of us. Solidarity is based on the notion that every single person who is a faculty member at the Ontario colleges, whether they're full-time, partial load, part-time, or sessional, who we're trying to organize, has equal value within that system and should be treated equitably, right? If we start to allow that kind of creep of two-tiering into a collective agreement. In other words, that there are different amounts of hours that people can be forced to teach, that people can be forced to teach on weekends, that people have different lower evaluation factors for their students, they have less time for preparation, they have to work more weeks a year, then that will eventually creep into the conditions of all of us. And so it is absolutely impossible that we should have these distinctions in post-secondary and non-post-secondary programs at this time. It is not the reality of how teaching and learning works at our colleges. And they're looking not just at that, but for a difference between faculty who are in the system now and the new faculty coming on, right? When you look at bargaining, you can't just look at this particular moment. You have to look at the signals that are coming, not just at the next collective agreement, but on the way to it that they're going to try and test out. So a lot of what we're talking about today is also establishing a bulwark against changes that will negatively impact all of us.